Yep. Rightio, councillors, please stand. Welcome, councillors, to this unscheduled meeting of the Swan Hill Rural City Council. Welcome also to members of the Executive and the public via live stream. Swan Hill Rural City Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pays its respects to their elders past and present. Councillor Johnson, the prayer, please.
We beseech you, Lord, that we may be granted wisdom, understanding and sincerity of purpose in the decisions we are called on to make for the welfare of the people of the rural city of Swan Hill.
Thank you. Please be seated, councillors. Mr McLean, do we have any apologies?
No, all councillors are present, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have any conflicts of interest? Councillors? No conflicts of interest. Let the record show the directors and officers present. Section B, reports. Mr McLendon, item B, 20.77, advocacy for the McCallum Street Bridge alignment.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is the only item presented at this unscheduled council meeting, and as councillors are aware, the only business that can be transacted at a meeting, an unscheduled meeting, is the items listed on the agenda. And so this item has been scheduled at the request of a number of councillors who would like to have a conversation and discussion in relation to council's position in readiness for the upcoming community consultation being conducted by Transport for New South Wales about the appropriate alignment for the Swan Hill Bridge. Transport New South Wales have now advertised their community consultation program. It has commenced already with the opportunity for the community to put submissions in via the Transport for New South Wales website, and is also conducting a live stream webinar, which will be really an information flow from Transport for New South Wales to those viewing the webinar, but with some opportunity for participants to lodge questions by chat box, which I'm not sure how they'll be responded to, but it will be largely an information giving rather than a two-way conversation, I'm led to understand. And that occurs at 1 p.m. On this Monday, first Monday of next week. I guess it's a little bit of history and a very brief history, Mr Mayor. The Swan Hill Rural City Council's official position with respect to the bridge alignment was resolved at a meeting of the 15th of April 2014. This council's position is that council endorse option 4B or a 4B variation as its preferred bridge option. Council will be required to represent its community view in this open consultation that Transport for New South Wales are conducting, and really the central question around that consultation is the issue of McCallum Street versus the gazetted 9A alignment. Again, as council and much of the community are aware, despite council's support for the 4B or 4B variation alignment, Vic Roads, who were doing the bridge investigations approximately 6 years ago I think now, formally resolved to support an alignment called 9A, which is an alignment that goes through Riverside Park and through town, through the Pool precinct, ending in the T intersection at Kahlua Street. That has formally been gazetted and is in the Swan Hill planning scheme, and is also in the similar planning instrument across the river in Murray River Shire. The McCallum Street alignment is a suitable alignment, and it will address the needs of the community and allow a new bridge to be finally built. Council still prefers option 4B, that is this council's officially stated position or alternative, over any plans for a 9A bridge alignment, and that should remain council's. Sorry, the McCallum Street alignment is not proved up to be feasible, then council's stated position remains as 4B or a 4B variation. So, Mr Mayor, I think that's enough from me. I'm aware the councillors wish to discuss and debate this matter, and so I'll leave the report at that point. There is a recommendation there.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors?
Mr Mayor?
Yes.
Just Mr McLean, in relation to this study between 9A and the current alignment, the same alignment, the actual cultural management heritage plans and all plans haven't actually been done at this stage. This is for Transport for New South Wales to verify that the community behind this position, then they'll be doing those studies. Is that correct?
My understanding in respect of all of the feasibility work in respect of the McCallum Street alignment is that there has been some overall feasibility work done to see that the bridge will physically fit, and that the clearances can be achieved. And there has been some initial work at looking at how traffic flows will occur. But as far as detailed investigation goes, foundation analysis, so the geotech, structural design, traffic management, cultural heritage issues, native veg issues and so on, I don't believe they have been done. They couldn't have been. There wouldn't have been time at this point.
Thank you.
Further questions? Yes, Councillor Ben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Up until this point, why has the McCallum Street alignment not been Council's position?
The studies that looked at the feasibility for the replacement of the Swan Hill Bridge, which culminated in the 9A alignment being adopted, pretty much wrapped up around 2014. So in the 5 years, at least 5 years preceding that, there were a number of alignment options considered. And the fact that we've got a 9A alignment suggests there were at least 9. In fact, there were at least 10 alignments, and there were variations of those alignments, 10A, B, C, etc. So a large number of alignments looked at. One of those was what was referred to as an existing alignment option, so a McCallum Street option. But very early on in the process, it was, these are my words, Councillor, but effectively vetoed because the heritage controls and protections on the existing Swan Hill Bridge precluded it from being considered. The work that is, so I guess the question that follows then is why we're looking at it now. Transport for New South Wales have been holding discussions with the Heritage Council of New South Wales, and have looked at their timber truss bridge strategy across all of those timber truss bridges in New South Wales, and have made the decision that they would support the removal of the heritage status on the Swan Hill Bridge, but they are putting heritage controls on other bridges across the state. That's the action that has now made this an option that had previously not been able to be considered.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr Mayor, if I could just add to Mr McClendon's, look, I've been through this process right when it started in 2008. There's been a lot of local input from members of the community who've done a lot of work around this alignment. We've had a motion before this council some months ago about a joint working party between Swan Hill Council and the Murray River Council, because the position Murray River, they do not have a current position at the moment. They initially had 9A, but they've gone away from that. They don't support any position. This position has come up with both councils in agreement to look at it, and people have worked strongly and advocated strongly about the heritage listing. Once that's gone, and that was a catchphrase, the whole thing, the heritage listing, now that's been taken off. It allows this to be progressed from now on.
So my next question is, if we're successful with the McCallum Street alignment, are there any measures in the future to preserve what is a historical bridge, even though it may not be heritage listing and that's all been removed? What's the vision to preserve the bridge?
Mr Mayor, the components of the Swan Hill Bridge that have heritage protection are the white painted timber trusses component of the bridge.
And that's it?
Not the lift span. I would like to say that.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Again, my language, lift spans aren't quite a dime a dozen, but there's an awful lot of them around. There are still a significant number of Percy Allen timber truss bridges around as well, many of them without lift spans, but it was the engineering design work that Percy Allen did, who was the Chief Bridge Engineer for Main Roads, New South Wales, that transformed bridge engineering through much of rural New South Wales, and that's why they have heritage significance. There has been no discussion about what could be other than if the McCallum Street alignment is proved up and ultimately is constructed, the existing bridge cannot remain in situ. They will simply physically clash and have to be removed. The discussion as to what to there has been some options floated around. That's a matter that will need to be explored much further, primarily led by Transport for New South Wales.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? There being no further questions, can I have a mover, please?
I'll move a motion, Mr Mayor. Point one, that council, point one, support the McCallum Street Bridge alignment over the 9A alignment in the open community consultation. Point two, still supports option 4B or 4B alternative over any plans for a 9A bridge and maintains that position if the McCallum Street alignment is not able to be built. And point three, makes a submission to the Transport for New South Wales community consultation on the alignment of the Swan Hill Bridge, setting out council's position.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Close.
Record comment, seconded by councillor McPhee.
Just before we debate, Mr Mayor, in point two, due to my employment, I tend to write brigade instead of bridge. Can we take the A out of reword brigade to bridge, please?
I got rid of one of those earlier.
Bridge.
It's a burning issue, Mr Mayor.
Very burning issue.
May I ask a question?
You can ask a question at any time, councillor.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Through the mayor. Do the Wamba people have any objection to 4B? I'm not informed.
I'm unable to answer that question. I don't know.
I could probably help there. I know there was issues with Wamba when that option was put up.
Yes.
And that's why I think you might find the Murray River Council were not supportive of that.
Yes.
The fact that there was Aboriginal objection to that location.
Yes.
You have the floor,
Yep.
councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, as we all know, the replacement of the Swan Hill Bridge has been a long, drawn-out process spanning nearly 50 years. There are many differing opinions in the community of where the bridge should go, but as we know, there is a strong dissatisfaction to the 9A alignment. It is not a good outcome for our community to have a bridge tear through Riverside Park, through our outdoor swimming pool, and end in our city at a T intersection. When we formed council in 2016, we all strongly advocated and have worked in the background in partnership with our Murray River Council to get an alignment that was never assessed with the options study undertaken around 2010. This is due to the heritage listing of the Swan Hill Bridge by New South Wales Heritage. Councillors Moore and McPhee and our CEO, Mr McClendon, have been our delegates to the Joint Committee working for an alternative location. I commend them and our colleagues in the Murray River Council in the work on getting the McCallum Street alignment considered, in getting the work undertaken for removal of the heritage listing from the bridge underway. This option is the way forward for Swan Hill. It is a better outcome than the 9A alignment. It is an option that has minimal to no impact on the natural environment of the river or cultural heritage. These are two big considerations that I believe have deterred both state governments in New South Wales and Victoria from committing funding to the new bridge. For some in our community, McCallum Street will be seen as the alignment that will finally get us a new bridge. For others, they will want it aligned to the 4B alignment or to Carina Street roundabout or further north of Swan Hill to interact with the bypass around Swan Hill for heavier vehicles. I feel that we cannot waste more time arguing on the location of where the bridge should go. It has got us nowhere in getting a new bridge currently. The reason for leaving 4B or 4B alternative on the table as council's position is that there is still the chance, as has been questioned today, that the McCallum Street alignment may not be achievable if issues arise through engineering, construction, heritage, and natural tree veg removal. So we need to maintain the position that we are against 9A and its detrimental impact. We have $60 million in funding secured from the federal government and now an alignment that is practically right next to the existing bridge. And I feel it is the closest we, or this town and this, both sides of the municipality, have gotten to getting a new bridge built. So if this option, I feel that this option is the answer for our community in getting a new bridge built. If both councils and if our community are not in favour of the McCallum Street Bridge, and we enter further debate and discussions on where it should go, I think we'll still be here in 40 years' time, and we'll see Mildura getting their second bridge before we get a replacement for our own bridge. So I believe that this is the option that has the best future for our municipality on both sides and our neighbouring municipality, and for the growth and future of our city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffrey. Councillor McPhee.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Being the longest serving councillor, when I first got on back in 2008, that's when this bridge started. Or be saying that though, this bridge discussion has been happening for 40 years or thereabouts, I've been told in the community. There was originally a bridge location where the 4B is. There's been either side of the river had plenty of overlays over them, and they changed their mind from that. As it stands currently, the 9A has plenty of overlays on both sides of the river, and if our bridge as it is now was to fall down tomorrow, that's where the bridge would be built, at 9A. The community have never supported 9A, albeit this council, prior to the 2012 elections, did support the 9A location at one time. In the 2012 elections, the community spoke very strongly, and 3 councillors lost their position on this council around this table as a result of their stance for 9A. The community has always been against 9A, and as a council we will remain to be against 9A. I think it's appropriate that we keep 4B or 4B alternative on the table, just to ensure that this becomes a live option once all the studies are done. Once all the studies are done, I think the next council should be looking at saying, yes, this is the way to go. And as Councillor Jeffrey said, if you've got both councils either side of the river supporting this location, we've already got $60 million from the federal government funding towards this bridge. I am sure the both state governments will put their hand in their pocket and come up with the money to build us a bridge in the not too distant future. Don't want to put a timeline down it. I've got my own, but I'm not going to make that public. The other thing is too, a bridge, it's not a case of waiting for another 40 years, as Councillor Jeffrey did say, because the maintenance, the cost of maintenance on this current bridge is not sustainable into the future, and that's another reason why this whole studies were done in relation to the Timber Trust bridges. If we don't come to an agreement on an alignment, we will end up with 9A. We need to strongly push that we don't have 9A, and this is the next best option if it is a viable option in the future. So I thoroughly support Councillor Jeffrey's bringing this special meeting, this unscheduled meeting to the fore with those other councillors. I thank them for doing this. At our last council meeting on Tuesday, I actually vetoed a similar motion, a late motion from the Mayor in relation to this. The reasoning behind that was, just because I agreed with something, I can't change the rules around meeting procedures. You can't let something in just because you agree with it. You've got to stick by your meeting procedures and do it properly, and this is the appropriate way to do it. So I thank those councillors for calling this unscheduled meeting and fully support investigating the 9A option. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McPhee. Any further speakers for the motion? Yes, Councillor Young.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to the motion. I just feel that this developing of the bridge and choosing where it should go has gone on long enough. We're in a situation now where we need something positive. We're coming out of this COVID situation, and I think getting a location decided for the bridge is probably one of the most positive things that we could have for our community. I think this bridge needs to happen now, and that's the feedback that's out there, is that people are saying just put the bridge up. That's what needs to happen. So I think that we need to decide on a location. I think some of the arguments that have been put up about the railway line and that railway line is likely to close, I don't believe that that will happen for a long time, because they've just spent a whole lot of money on it, upgrading the sleepers and that, and I don't think it's a good idea to close it, because the grain silos out at Wurrnan send probably one of the biggest shipments of grain out of this region and out of Australia. into the market. So I don't think that needs to happen. I just believe in terms of Manangatang and those areas out there too, I think they want that area to stay as it is, so I can't see that there's going to be big changes happening there, so I don't see that's an argument. So I just think we've spent all this time negotiating to have the heritage listing removed. That's now happened, and I think we just need to move on and approve it and get the location decided.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to echo, I remember this being an issue when I was at high school at Swanville College. So it has been a long time in the making, and it seems now that the states have made the decision to give us a choice of two options. I'm not fully in agreement with the 4B part of this motion. However, in the interest of moving it forward, I will support it. And 9A seems like the most common sense and the best solution for all parties on both sides of the river. I've seen some commentary this week that council have been the party to hold things up, and I can unequivocally state that that is absolutely not the case, having seen in the past 18 months, even before my time on council, the work that Councillor McPhee and Moore have put into this. So that is absolutely untrue, and I was alarmed to see that commentary today. But let's hope we actually see some action now, and let's hope it's 9A. Thank you. Sorry, McCallum Street. I was looking up there at Swan 9A. McCallum Street, not 9A.
You had us go on there, Councillor Bennett.
Jokes. It's Friday.
Right, any further speakers? Councillor McCart, please.
Yes. I have very little involvement or knowledge of the history of this, apart from as a casual observer. However, I'd like to suggest that the concerns around 4B or the 4B alternative be taken into account by us, and that selecting that as the second one might see us be pushed into a corner when, if the McCallum Street option is not viable, that maybe we should have the options open to further consideration, not just 4B. So I'm just putting that idea out there. Would anyone agree with an amendment? Because we might find that that's the only one that's considered, when it's hopefully and likely that the McCallum Street option is preferred. I think we should take into consideration the concerns of the Wamba and Wadi Wadi people and the concerns voiced by people around there. However, I am new to this argument. I'm certainly not going to stand in the way of the preferred choice of the council, which is the McCallum Street option. It's practical.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson, would you like to speak?
I think it's all been said. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Jeffrey, would you like to close the debate, please?
No, I think all the debate's been in favour, Mr Mayor. Happy for it to go to a vote.
Okay, thank you. We will go to a vote then.
So could I suggest an amendment and see if that is accepted?
Already debated.
Okay.
It's already been debated. Thank you. We'll go to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. That decision is motion is passed unanimously. Thank you. There being no further business in this unscheduled meeting, I declare the meeting closed at